Okay, so 8/27/2013. Let's see, it's been 4 days since I whacked my head on 8/24, 2013, which was a Saturday evening. And I whacked my head horsing around with Anthony for sure. It was a total accident, of course. I did it to myself. And and I hit it really hard. So um, I did suffer a concussion. I kept the first, right after it happened, probably not too long after it happened, about 5 or 10 minutes, I started to lose, consciousness. And yeah, I started to lose consciousness, had ice on my head, knew it was bad. I was sitting on my bed, on the edge of my bed with the fan on me. And as I started to lose consciousness, I um, I could tell I was getting, I could tell I was losing consciousness and I was falling backward and everything was going black and actually had orange around it. Anyway, started to, black out. And I was asking Anthony to dial 911 as I was going back because as it was happening, I started saying to him, I'm about to black out, I'm about to pass out. Call 911. I was saying if I pass out, if I black out, or faint, I don't know, but it was whatever. If I black out, dial 911 now. And I told him that twice, and then I heard him, saying no as I was going back, and so I knew that for some reason I just knew I couldn't go unconscious. So with the ice pack on my head, I fought back, pulled myself back up, and asked him to immediately take me to the shower to get into a cold shower because I was losing consciousness and I was fighting with everything I had. So I had the ice pack on my head, but I just knew I couldn't go unconscious because if I went unconscious, then that ice pack wasn't going to be on top of my head, and the person that I was relying on already told me that he was not going to dial 911. And having the kind of head injury that I just sustained, it is extraordinarily important that ice be kept behind me. Technically, he should have only dialed 911 while making sure the ice was in place and that I was okay. But he did the right thing by getting me in the shower like I asked, and that kept me from losing consciousness. Somewhat. I was fighting semi unconscious for what I believe to be about 10 minutes total. And so when Natasha Richardson, so this video is to bring up a few points. When Natasha Richardson, and I'm sitting, I don't mean to be weird, I'm actually sitting in my bathroom. I don't know where my white hand towel is. It's just been kind of a crazy 4 days. So I don't know where my hand towel is. It normally does not look this barren. So it's just, I'm sure you already picked up on the echo, but whatever. It's just kind of comfortable in here. And I just happened to be in here doing something else. And I thought, you know what, I'll just, real quickly, I'll sit here and do it. Anyway, talk about this. So this is how I first learned about head injuries. And I'll go back to my evening because believe me, there's far more to it than that. Far more to it than what I've just described as far as hitting my head and then starting to struggle to lose consciousness and then winning the battle to not lose consciousness. But it was everything that I had. Let me go into that. Let me just finish that. So he walks me into the shower. He's holding on to me. I got the ice on my head. I'm standing there, clothed. I'm in shirt, bra, panties, and I'm in the shower and cold water with the ice on my head, and like my body just whoosh, feels this crazy electrical. And boy, if I will go into describing what it feels like, what I'm about to tell you next, describing the struggle I had with staying conscious after I collapsed into the floor. So I step out of the bath, the shower. I'm like, because all of a sudden my body, I felt like my body do like this boom, like this shock thing, you know, which I guess I knew was coming. I knew what I was doing, but I had never done it before. So I had never experienced what that felt like before, you know, with the ice on my head and the cold water hit to shock me. And it worked. And I felt it, and I was like, and it hit me, and I was like, oh, you have to get me out of here right now. You have to sit me down right now, because I just felt like it. I felt it through my entire body. It was almost like a reboot or a shutdown, or it was a push, you know. And I just remember thinking, oh God, and he was holding on to me. He did not let go of me, and so. He helped me out of the shower, and as I stepped out of the shower, apparently the next part of head injury started occurring, and that is I was speaking to him, asking him to bring me Coca-Cola, because when I don't feel good, when I feel sick, I want Coca-Cola. So I said, you know, I was trying to say, bring me Coca-Cola. I don't know what I was saying. It was just garbled, you know, nonsense because of the head injury. So, um, I was able to somehow convey, I think through like, you know, I think something like that, to convey I wanted the drink, you know, bring me the drink, and because that's actually how this started. We were coursing around upstairs. It was totally silly business, and it actually turned it into quite a funny story, and it's just true. It just mayonnaise in the back door, and it's just not as bad as it sounds. Clearly, we were playing around making chicken sandwiches, and I said something. You know, we were messing around. I said, you know, I'll drink your, you know, I'll drink your Coke, and I actually opened his Coke and took a drink because you know that's his. It was his. I think last or next to the last Coca-Cola, which is like the prized, you know, cigarette to the smoker. For anyone who's addicted to anything, and he's not addicted to it, don't get me wrong, he'll go a long time. As a matter of fact, I think that Coca-Cola had stayed in there for a really long time because he knows I use them for when I'm sick. So he actually left those Coke. There were like 2 Coca-Colas in there for just ever. And so that was part of the joke, was that I was like, I'm going to drink your Coke. He's like, what are you doing? And of course, it was a joke, you know. So then he was going to put mayonnaise on my face and start chasing me around. Anyway, so that's how the Coke actually does factor in. And so when I got out of the shower after the initial shock of the water, I asked for the Coke. I thought I asked for the Coke. Apparently, I it was just my, you know, it was just garbled nonsense. So then I asked him to bring me my box fan and set it down and put it on me. So I wanted, you know, because I had the ice. So like as I started to kind of go down, and after I was able to communicate that I needed the Coca-Cola, I kind of in a controlled collapsed, but you know, with myself, I went down to the floor and on top of a rug and a towel, you know, so I wasn't like I was just on like bare tile or anything. So I was on the floor and I was leaning against the door, and it was just, I started experiencing this just really intense struggle or battle to stay conscious. Like I felt myself just, you know, closing my eyes and wanting to go to sleep. And I had the bag of ice that I had kept on my head. I was now holding on my chest after I got out and did the controlled collapse and had the fan on me. And my struggle with consciousness was nothing short of amazing. It was the craziest. Okay, so one thing I haven't said so far is that this was the most serious injury I've received as an adult. So it was very unique in the regard that I knew immediately upon hitting my head, I knew how much trouble I was in. I knew I was in a lot of trouble right away. I was not concerned. I was not confused about what just happened to me, because I know how hard I hit that. And matter of fact, I have, excuse me, I'm burping water. Matter of fact, I have, I have whiplash right now. Could you imagine? I have whiplash right now from the hitting my head. I don't know what that was, but I'll look at it later. Something just notified me, but whatever. So, because I just ended up reformatting my hard drive, my whole computer was acting really weird for the last few months. And so I'd been doing a lot of backup of everything, but it just was still acting so glitchy. I said, you know what? I'm going to reformat the whole thing and just start over. I have no problem doing that, I lost all my favorites that were on, oh my gosh, which I had a ton of, but I do bookmark those and save the favorites from time to time, so I actually have them, a majority of them, which is important. Over 90, I would say probably 80% of the recipes that I've saved have already been bookmarked from years past, because I keep kind of making sure I have them. But, so anyway, so the fight with, what was I saying? Why did I bring that up? It doesn't matter. So the fight with the semi-consciousness, crazy. I sat there just like battling for my life is basically what it felt like to me. Again, I'll reiterate that if I had gone unconscious, I don't know if that bag of ice would have been held on my head. And it was critically important that that ice stay on my head. And I kept ice on my head for 10 hours. 10 hours, until and then I gathered 3 hours of sleep, 3.5 hours of sleep. And since then I've only slept in 3 hour increments, and very little, just because head injuries are so insidious. So let me finish telling you about my head injury, and then I'll tell you how I learned about head injuries, and then I'll tell you about a few more decisions that I made that were important and that could have been critically bad as well, and still I face. So this is the reality of, life right now. I think there are many people who are in my shoes, and this is why I'm willing to discuss it. Discuss this. So anyway, so I was on the floor, collapsed, spoke nonsense, had the Coca-Cola and the fan on me, the ice pack between my chest and my head, and one of the most amazing things started happening that I can't properly express. I can't. Is that my ear canals started to tingle, but on the inside, right? So my ear canals started to feel like they were like when your feet go to sleep. My ear canals started tingling like that, and so then they just really started lighting up with that with the tingling sensation in my mind's eye. But here's the interesting thing: in my mind's eye, as this began to happen, I saw inside my head and neck, but it was very black. It was just kind of like blacked out, except for the ear canals, which were lit up like they were lit up with stars. And at the time, what I saw was, it was like a sonar representation of my eardrums down. And so what it looks like and what it looked like, because I saw this in my mind's eye so beautifully, it was an amazing thing that was happening to me. When it was happening to me, I knew. I just sat back and it just was looking at what my mind was showing me from the head injury. And so it was very intriguing, but it looked like black holes. Oh gosh. It looked like black holes. How black holes are represented in schematics, drawings, representations, animations. Except for, if you think about it too, this would be the black hole, and then it goes down in, and it it even graduated, to smaller, like it does, of course, inside. And so it was an amazing. So I saw my eardrums lit up in a very sonar type of fashion, where it looked like there was light, but everything else was just grayed out or black. It was the most incredible thing my mind showed me. I could not believe what I was seeing, and it felt filling, tingling, definitely tingling. And so, and so yesterday was, let's see, the 26th, and so that was 3 days into the head injury, and I was still icing, and I'll be icing again today, I believe. I was icing my neck and my head yesterday. My neck started hurting Sunday afternoon. And so I didn't realize that I was rather ignorant about how still I should have kept to myself, because I was actually, even after the initial impact, I should have just been sitting, and I did spend a majority of the time down, but I was also up and down getting my own ice. Because, well, let me finish. I guess I'll finish telling you that. Yeah. So, anyway, yeah, the eardrums, the ear canals, and how my third eye saw them lit up like a beautiful space. It was like black holes in my. It was amazing. And I thought of that, of course, because I believe that we do come from the universe. So to be shown something like that is just phenomenal. Like it's still like, wow, okay. But so anyway, I'd gone down and I was fighting, trying to stay conscious, of course. And while that was happening, that's when my third eye was seeing the ear canal, the eardrums type, whatever was happening there. So, amazing. So, anyway, as soon as I had consciousness again, where I was like, oh shit, like I was aware that that what just happened fully, that I just fought for consciousness. It was very scary. Let's see. Oh, I immediately checked my pupils for dilation, which is, one of the things you do. I knew that if I started vomiting or that I was in trouble, that was, I know a number of things about head injuries. Well, I'll put it to you like this, and this, I don't know if this just sounds cocky or awful. I mean, other than, obviously, I told Anthony to dial 911, and he did not, which is what I should have done. And in a way, I'm glad he did it. It made me fight for consciousness in some ways, because I think if I would have lost consciousness relying on the fact that 911 was going to come, there could have even been time that the ice wasn't on my head, so I could have been in trouble with that. So, anyway, I've got 3 minutes left on this video, actually 2 minutes. So I'm going to end this. No, that's never mind, because I think, yeah, okay, never mind. I think I'm okay to keep going with this. So, in either case, once I regained my consciousness as fully as you could after a head injury, which is something new I learned about firsthand. I mean, I knew about, but without experiencing it firsthand, you don't quite understand, right? But so anyway, got out, dilated my pupils, started measuring that on a regular basis to make sure that they were still reactive, and kept ice on my head for 10 hours. Did not lose consciousness, amazingly enough. That was some of the struggle of trying to let go, because the intoxication of unconsciousness when you hit your head and you want to black out is the most profound intoxication of sleep or losing consciousness you'll ever want to experience in your life. I just remember feeling that. I kept thinking, this is so beautiful. This is so beautiful. I just want to go to sleep. It just felt so good. I was like, wow, this right here, but ultimately I knew that I could not. And I actually, a couple times, when I was collapsed on the floor, I was allowing myself. Oh, by the way, I hit my hand on the, that's the left side, right here. See, but for some reason the left side, well, not for some reason, I mean, I get it, right? So I hit my noggin back here, really super hard. I mean, and back, the amount of force I hit that door with my head is unbelievable. Unbelievable. It's just unbelievable. I can't believe it. Right? Still, just can't believe it. But then the neck, the whiplash is all on the left side. So even right now, the back, my neck, and so that's why there's a minimum movement. I'm not being as animated as usual. Is that it hurts. So pretty much, I should have, but yeah, I should have been okay. Yeah. So after the initial injury, and the icing. It took me 3 hours to just be able to kind of go, okay, where, like, and, like go upstairs and do something, whatever, you know what I'm saying? I mean, 3 hours from the initial impact, I did nothing but just, the first 30 minutes struggle with the initial blow, and then struggling with unconscious, struggling to stay conscious. And then, winning the battle, checking the pupils, keeping the ice, and I think I was just in shock. And I think I was in shock for a few days. And I'm not in a shock right now. Like, I don't feel like that as much, and I don't feel near as foggy. I was pretty foggy, which is very normal for brain injury. And so very foggy. I have texts, that just are kind of definitely reflective of the brain injury, which was an amazing thing to experience because, I'm not, it was like, I guess it was almost like operating like a very intoxicated, but you're not. But then of course you have to add fear and adrenaline to that because, of the injury that I just sustained, and I knew that the injury that I just sustained was really serious. So, I mean, I was just, but then the fogginess of, well, because there comes a point, like the day after and then yesterday even speaking, some of my words were like backward, I think. And so I'm still, and even Anthony was like, are you aware that you said underneath? And what it was that when I said the word underneath, it was that I was thinking about two towels and that I could use the one on the bottom underneath the other one, but I never said anything except for the word underneath. So a lot of that, well, I don't want to say a lot of that. Some of that has happened. I don't want to be unfair with language. It's important to be concise. But some of that's been happening, and the texting thing, like I'm not doing as much as far as writing a lot of what I'm capable of or whatever, because it's a lot of work right now. It's gotten better. I mean, I could tell it's all gotten better. It's just, okay, I'm starting to hurt. So let's see, from sitting here. So I think I'm going to go. Yeah. But yeah, so I kept ice on my head for 10 hours and just struggled cognitively. Still am struggling. Well, today I feel better, but I was definitely struggling cognitively Saturday, Sunday, Monday. And I do feel better today. And I felt better last night. Like I said, I've been sleeping in 3 and 4, well, initially in 3-hour increments, but I didn't sleep. The first night I only slept for 3.5 hours, and that was, that was into Sunday. So it happened Saturday night around 6 p.m. And yeah, it was just shocking. And like I said, I'm still dealing with it, so it doesn't feel like it. I'm not clearly I'm not out of the clear. Oh boy, this could really be. I need to really get this concise. It's a lot of information, and that just doesn't even get to the fact of how I know about head injuries. And, why I was so scared of it and why anyone should be scared of a concussion or a head injury. It's a very serious business. So I guess I'm going to call this like part 1 and then move to the next. Or maybe I'll just redo this. I don't know. We'll see. Move to the next part of it because there's a reason behind right now this video. I want to talk about, the healthcare system and why I didn't want to. I mean, I wish he would have called 911 when I asked him to, but then, I could have been, and he really should have done, because I don't want to dial it or whatever, because, then I feel like I'm responsible for it's the bill. I don't have insurance, and I've already had a medical emergency situation in the last decade where I did not have insurance. So I don't want to have a lot of those. And so I don't want to So I haven't so far gone to the doctor. Of course, like I said, if I felt like I was continuing to lose cognitive function, or if I wasn't improving, I would go to the doctor immediately. So I'm watching still for signs of improvement, which are happening every day, which everything that I've experienced so far was extraordinarily normal, with a concussion and a head injury. So I'm paying attention. And even though some funny things, about, I mean, I don't know. I did my own thing, but I did my own thing in treating myself, and I do not recommend that. Part of what needs to be stated here is that if you see someone hit their head and you can tell it looks like a serious head injury, make sure that they ice the head. And because what I learned when Natasha Richardson died from her head injury was that when I read that, she had hit her head and that she had refused medical treatment, but then an ambulance was called, but she was up walking around and talking right before she died. It really confused me because I didn't understand at that time. So whatever year that Natasha Richardson died and was the year that I actually became, and I knew lots of other medical things about the brain, and how unpredictable and just amazing it is actually, how it behaves, and no two injuries are ever the same, ever. And that is phenomenal, of course, but when I read her story initially that she had refused treatment and that she was up and walking around and etc., I was like, what do you mean she was up walking around right before she died? I mean, weren't there any clearer signs that she was in jeopardy before she fell into a coma from her head injury? So I started researching. Of course, that was usually how we all work, right? Something intrigues us, grabs our attention, and then we run with it, and that's what we do. So that is where I started researching about the brain injury that she suffered from, because that intrigued me because I could just see me being that person, who would hit their head and maybe not fully realize how dangerous it is. I mean, you can't fault Natasha Richardson if she didn't know the danger that she was in. So so that made me intrigued by head injuries, of course, and then I kind of learned a lot about the brain and the body and how unique these injuries are and how deadly they can be in just a moment's notice. The head injury is a very insidious injury. It is, it can affect you. Like my head right now, just because it's been 4 days, going on 4 days, it is, whatever. I could die from it tomorrow. And all of the care in the world, like in the hospital, I don't know. There's some things that you can do that can save you from dying. But at this point, of course, the first 24 hours with swelling and bleeding is very critical. It doesn't mean that I still haven't done some type of damage, but to go into an emergency room with a head injury that I hit, losing consciousness, they're going to do a lot of expensive testing on me, which is their job and they should do. But at the end of the day, that's going to cost me like what, $20,000, $30,000 for a head injury? Because most likely they would have kept me overnight. Then I would have had to have been assessed, because we have to factor in the fact that I have pseudotumor cerebri and reverse curve in my neck. I have pseudotumor cerebri, which is my brain acts like has a tumor on it sometimes. But it was diagnosed in 2006, and I don't treat it only because you'd have to go to the doctor and take all kinds of medication. And basically, what you do is, you don't gain weight. And see, that's part of the reason I did this whole health thing. I think is that I was too overweight, so I've been doing everything to help my body. So it's really interesting to have this injury now, by the way. This timing is intriguing to me because I just lost 40 pounds. And so I feel like my body is really healthy, and I wonder what would have happened if I would have had this injury when I was 40 pounds heavier and nowhere near as physically apt to handle a crisis biochemically. So it's very, I'm like, wow, okay. But there's so many interesting things about the timing of this injury, about a video on one of my YouTube videos that's the third video in. So sorry, my back. It's the third newest video that I have about one of my death dreams that puts me right on this. And and I started changing my will the day before. So the day before the injury, I had started changing my will, which is a significant change. So it wasn't a little change. And then I had spoke to the young woman that I'm putting in charge just not even 20 minutes before hitting my head, and that what I spoke to her about verbally was actually some of the most important things I wanted her to know. And so the timing of everything, and then of course the day of, I also not only did I verbalize some of my most important changes in my will, but I was on a video blog type thing, and it was an article about CPR and children and first aid. And though I wasn't on there arguing or being like rude against other people who had a different opinion, I did express that I thought it was better to have anyone available versus no one. And, I really wasn't thinking about the fact that, the initial response in an emergency situation should be to dial 911. I was just thinking from my aptitude of saving someone's life. If someone gets hurt, I've saved a man's life once before, and I've administered first aid response on, that's how the guy survived. That's because I pried him out of a car accident with my bare hands. So, my point was that to save a life, we have to do everything that we have to do. But that I didn't deem that it was inappropriate for 13-year-old children to have CPR certification or to learn how to do the Heimlich maneuver, because any knowledge is better than no knowledge. I still stand by that position. However, my eyes were completely awakened when I was put in the critical situation 8.5 hours later. It was almost 9 hours to the point, or maybe it was 9 hours. I don't exactly know what time I popped my head, but I could look it up, I guess. I don't know. But, yeah, I struggled initially after my head injury though, for a while. And the boy should have called 911. I guess that's my point. I'm sorry I trolled off because it is kind of shocking when I think about it. But, yeah, that I was having that conversation. So I actually went back and acknowledged that the first response should have been 911. I mean, he should have dialed 911 since I was in the crisis mode, and I just struck my head. I really wasn't the person who should have been making the decisions about my own health care. However, I was put in the position, once I realized 911 wasn't going to be called, I was put in the position to save my own life. I feel that is exactly what happened, because if the ice wouldn't have been on my head, I would have been in trouble for any real length of time. That was a serious blow, and swelling I believe it would have swelled. I hit it that hard, it was shocking. Like I said, the whiplash alone I'm experiencing the most whiplash pain on the left-hand side, and that started on Sunday, and I was not keeping myself near as still as what I should have. I should have been far more not moving about on Sunday, and even Saturday evening I was getting up and down, getting my own ice because Anthony went to bed. I told him I should not have been left alone, and then when he got up to go to work, I said, don't go to work, sit with me, don't. But he, went to work, and so then in the morning, sorry, I'm trying to pop my middle back. In the morning, it's when I started speaking to the woman that I was speaking to, who's in my friends on Facebook. I started speaking to her about that I was wrong, and I acknowledged that. But my words were prophetic. You should have seen the last entrance on, Our last few back and forth were prophetic to my situation. And it's right there in black and white. 8/24/2013 at 9:30 a.m. in the morning, I'm having this conversation. And on 8/24, 6 p.m. that evening, I was put in that situation. And my position was wrong in the sense that the one person who was with me, who should have dialed 911, didn't. And there was a catastrophic failure of medical aid, first aid response from the person who should have been doing something more than standing there being the proverbial grumpy cat of the life and death world. No. Dial 911. No. What? Dang it. I gotta stop doing my attitude when I'm talking here. Because I'm trying, even though it might not look like it to you, I'm actually just unconsciously, because I speak and I'm very animated, trying to move my neck, and I'm like, stop moving it. Anyway, I'm going to end this, but yeah, Natasha Richardson's injury is what probably saved my life, I'm guessing, with the ice. Because the whiplash is so bad that that's shocking to me. That's something that I'm not accustomed to processing yet. Because literally, my concussion has been almost textbook. Now, everyone's symptoms are different when you have a concussion. So some people might have have amnesia. I did not have any. Not only do I know everything that happened before and after, but I can tell you just about everything that happened. Yeah, I can tell you everything that happened in my semi-unconscious state. Everything. So, I fought and I struggled, and at this point, I have thus succeeded. But I do have the residual head injury junk. Like I said, the whiplash is shocking. The amount of pain I was in yesterday, I started kind of freaking out, thinking that I was going to have to go to the emergency room. But I was trying to keep my head straight because I wasn't taking any OTCs, no ibuprofen, no Excedrin, no aspirin. It was just ice and water. And that was pretty much it. So no OTCs, no ibuprofen, none of that. And so of course I'm going to hurt, apparently. That is indicative of what I was trying to express, but clearly you cannot get across if someone didn't experience it. But I was trying to express that I hit it really hard. I hit my head really, really, really hard, and that is definitely reflective in the whiplash. That's definitely there. It's awful, actually. It's very painful. And I find it annoying that all the pain, because my trap is injured on my right side from doing sit-ups. Okay, I'm going to go because I'm having a really weird pain right there. But see, I'm trying to fight. I'm PMSing. Anthony has a freaking cold. I like one where he sounds like very what like that. I'm like, okay, now I knocked my nug and you refuse to dial 911 and now you have a freaking cold? Jesus Christ. So I'm, of course I'm taking nascent iodine. Yeah, I guess I should throw that in there. I'm taking nascent iodine to heal anything that's happening. So I'm going to take some more nascent iodine, and I'm going to drink a protein shake here in a minute, and but so I have been nursing myself, but in a very homeopathic way, and that doesn't mean anything. It doesn't mean that I'm successful. So far, I've been successful, but it doesn't. And even if I went to the doctor, they could not guarantee that I could not die from the head injury from Saturday. Even if they sent me home, you have a concussion, go home. Don't move. Here's your neck brace. Here are your pain meds, which I wouldn't take the pain meds. I won't take the RX. I you know, because then I can't really gauge myself, and it's important for me to gauge what I'm experiencing. So I'm gauging PMS, pseudotumor cerebri, reverse curve of my neck, which are all there. I have my mid to lower back is super sore because I'm doing a new dance move. When I dance, it's a new dance move because I'm trying to work a whole different region that's like the last bit of where a lot of my fat is, which is around the hips. So I'm doing this very gyrating, and it's really, but I'm doing it to work out. So the way I'm doing it is like really, anyway, it's got really sore in my middle back. So anyway, it's like I have these layers of hell on me. And I'm, I was so mad at Anthony last night. I was like, I cannot believe that you're getting me sick. I don't think I'm getting sick. Like clearly I think the nascent iodines kept it off of me. So I'm going to continue that. Of course, that's helping with, I'm clearly using that for anything else that may be happening, or may not be happening, but whatever. Um, but yeah, a lot of things on me. And I told him, I said, I can't believe if I get a head cold, it's going to screw up my ability to track the head injury because you can have no injuries and a head cold removes your ability to just even know your name. So if I got a head cold and with this, I wouldn't be able to track what's happening. You know, if there are any changes, if something springs itself forth in pain that you would, in the mechanism, which is usually it would, something usually would present itself in such a way, usually in pain. So if you have my eyes, ears, nose, throat, which by the way, where I whacked my head, I think that's what it affected was the ears. Yeah, the ears, eyes, nose, throat. I don't know. But yeah, there's some things I'll talk about later that have been present since the knock on the head, but not right now. See, right now, it felt like a whole roof of my mouth and into my sinuses was just barely numb. So it was really interesting feeling. And it stayed like that for a few, but see, I think that's because I was up and moving around. Anyway, I'm going to go for now. This is 42 minutes long and I have so much more to talk about just with the head injury information that I was aware of before. I didn't even look up anything about this until 3 o'clock in the morning when I decided that I needed to at least have a bit more definitive guide or information about sleeping following a head injury. But I know that there's no guarantees, no hard and fast guarantees about anything, right? So, but I began to quickly find that sleeping is probably okay, not immediately following, right? But I was 10 hours in, and so that it was at that point I was 9 hours, but it was 10 hours in when I decided that I was like, okay. So I set an alarm for 2 hours. Initially I was going to do an alarm every hour, 2 hours, but then I decided every 3 hours, and so then I started juggling the times. That's not the right word. It's the right word, but it's not the word I want. Anyway, the time frames on my alarms, so I would not go into any deep sleep that I would not wake up out of. So it was, there was a lot of decision making that I've been making for my own health since this has happened. To at least be aware and track and help my body. So I don't know. There you go. But and now it's at 45 minutes. I'm gonna go. Okay, I'll talk to you guys later. Okay, bye.